I'll never forget the sound of Samson's cries when the Philistines seized him. It wasn't the cry of a warrior in pain, it was the sound of a man who had lost his strength, his pride, and his purpose. I saw it all, and it's a story I'll never stop telling. My name is Eliab, and I was a servant in the Philistine palace. I wasn't anyone important, just someone who cleaned and carried messages. But being invisible has its perks, you see and hear everything. And when it came to Samson, there was plenty to see and hear. Samson was a man of legend, a warrior with the strength of 100 men. Stories of him tearing apart a lion with his bare hands and defeating entire armies were whispered in fear and awe. He was Israel's greatest weapon, a man dedicated to God from birth. He was untouchable, or so everyone thought. The Philistines hated him. They plotted and schemed, but Samson always outsmarted them. He humiliated them, time after time, and it drove them mad. They needed a new plan, and that's when Delilah entered the picture. Delilah wasn't a warrior or a spy. She was something more dangerous, clever, beautiful, and ambitious. When the Philistine leaders offered her a fortune to discover Samson's secret, she didn't hesitate. I thought she might fail like everyone else, but I underestimated her determination. Delilah played her role perfectly. She made Samson believe she loved him. She laughed at his jokes, stroked his ego, and gave him the attention he craved. But she always had one question on her lips: what makes you so strong? At first, Samson treated it like a game. He told her his strength came from being tied with fresh ropes or woven into a loom. Each time, Delilah called the Philistines to capture him, and each time, Samson broke free. It was like a dance, a dangerous game that only Samson thought he controlled. But Delilah was relentless. She accused him of not trusting her, of not loving her. And Samson, for all his strength, had a weakness: his pride. He wanted to prove himself to her. He wanted to be loved. After days of pleading and manipulation, Samson finally gave in. He told her the truth. "It's my hair," he said. "I've been dedicated to God since birth. If my hair is cut, my strength will leave me." I was hiding nearby when he said it. My heart sank. Delilah smiled, but it wasn't the smile of love, it was the smile of someone who had won. That night, Delilah waited until Samson was fast asleep. She called the Philistines, and together they shaved his head. When Samson woke, he tried to fight as he always had. But his strength was gone. The Philistines seized him, blinded him, and dragged him away in chains. The man who had once been unstoppable was now broken. Samson was thrown into a prison and forced to grind grain like a slave. He was unrecognizable, his muscles wasted, his spirit crushed. But as the weeks turned into months, something remarkable happened. His hair began to grow back. It was slow and subtle, but with every inch of hair, it seemed like a part of the old Samson returned. One day, the Philistines held a grand festival to celebrate their victory over Samson. They brought him out to mock him, parading him like a trophy. He was chained between two massive pillars in the temple, surrounded by thousands of jeering spectators. I watched from the back of the crowd, feeling a strange mix of pity and fear. Samson was weak, but there was a fire in his eyes I hadn't seen before. He asked the guards to place his hands on the pillars so he could lean for support. Nobody suspected a thing. Then I heard him pray, a simple, desperate prayer. "Lord, remember me. Strengthen me one more time, so I can avenge my people." Before anyone realized what was happening, Samson pushed against the pillars with all his might. The temple began to shake. The laughter turned to screams as the massive structure collapsed, killing everyone inside: Philistine leaders, soldiers, and even Samson himself. I barely made it out alive. As I stood outside the ruins, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had witnessed. Samson had made many mistakes. He let pride, anger, and temptation guide him. But in the end, he turned back to God, and God used him to deliver his people. Samson's story taught me two things. First, no one, not even the strongest among us, is invincible. We all have weaknesses, and if we're not careful, they can destroy us. And second, it's never too late to turn back to God. Samson's life ended in sacrifice, but it also ended in redemption. I hope his story lives on, not just as a tale of strength, but as a reminder of what truly matters: humility, faith, and purpose.